and welcome to the webinar, Harnessing Data and Analytics for Your Nonprofit Success. My name is Aretha Simons. I'm the webinar producer here. I'm going to show you on the next slide how you can engage, although I know many of you come to our webinars often, but there's going to be probably hundreds of you here today. And so we would love for you to put your question in the Q&A. If you put it in the chat, maybe you're driving or something, we'll still try to grab it, but the Q&A is the best place to put your questions. There's going to be a survey that's going to pop up when you leave or when you close your screen. Just two simple questions. We would love to know what you like more from TAP and TechSoup. I was going to say TAP Network. But I'm going to turn this over to Julian Grace and Zach Payton. They're going to take us in. Guys, have a great webinar. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Aretha. So my name is Julian Grace. I work with TAP Network, and I'm the Junior Director of Data Solutions there. And so often I'm working with data to figure out exactly what's going wrong, what we can fix, and what has room for improvements. So I use it a lot day to day, and I'm hoping that throughout this presentation we'll be able to give you some helpful tips for how you can implement this and start really harnessing the data and analytics for your nonprofit. I'm joined here by my colleague, Zach.
Thanks, Julian. Hey, everybody. My name is Zach. I am the Junior MarTech Specialist here at TAP Network. I work a lot with smaller nonprofits, helping with CRM implementations, setting up donation systems. So like Julian, use a lot of data and analytics in my day-to-day job. So I'm happy to share this webinar with you and then hopefully answer some questions here.
Yeah. So as we get started today, here's the quick agenda for everything that's going to be discussed. So we're going to talk a little bit about TAP Network and then go into why data is actually important. And we're going to talk about how we can use that data to build a marketing strategy, then go in there, whether we're going to break it down into email marketing, use it on website stuff and social media. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can sort of use data within that. Then some practical tips for how to set and reach some of the goals. We're going to show some specials that we have just for TechSoup members. And then we're going to have a long Q&A session. And like Aretha said, please use the Q&A feature. I don't want to miss any of your questions. If it's something that comes up as we're talking about it, we'll try and get to it then. But we do have the dedicated question and answer section at the end. And don't be shy. There's odds are if you have a question and you're trying to get some clarification on something, somebody else on the webinar does as well. So like I said, Zach and I work for an agency called TAP Network. We've worked with thousands of nonprofits at this point, been partners with TechSoup for many, many years. And what we really do is help nonprofits grow and develop solutions that aren't just good for today, but they're going to be good for tomorrow and as you change as well. There's a couple of different things we do here. Here's where we're working with global clients, large scale organizations and nonprofits. And then even with community organizations. So whether it's working with people to sign up for state-funded programs, I guess you would call them, or whether it's individual, community-driven organizations, or even fundraising drives for large foundations. We help all across the board. There's a lot of things we do for you. So whether we can do strategy, we get into creative and branding things. We do ads, analytics, websites, anything under the sun when it really comes to analytics, data, websites, marketing, we'll be able to help you out with. Now, we're going to get started by going over why data is actually important. So, Zach, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Perfect. Thanks, Julian. So yeah, why is data important? It helps you understand your supporters better at the end of the day. So what they care about, how they're engaging with your organization, and what's really motivating them to act. By analyzing information, you can really tailor your communications, making them more personal and more impactful. So for example, knowing which donors prefer email updates versus event invitations, this will allow you to really connect to them in a way that resonates. Data also provides measurable insights into how well your programs and campaigns are performing and achieving their goals. So it'll help you answer those critical questions. Are you reaching the right audience? Is your messaging really inspiring? Ultimately, data is going to help you properly allocate those resources on your team. So we know nonprofits often have limited time and budgets, And as a nonprofit, you must make those strategic decisions about where to invest those resources. And harnessing data, this will help you identify what's working and what's not. And this will ultimately enable you to focus on those high impact initiatives. So by leveraging data, you're not necessarily just improving operations, you're also strengthening those relationships with your supporters, proving that your organization has value, and then making every dollar and hour count towards your mission. Let's talk a little bit about some trackable data. So on a website, for example, things that you can measure are the number of visitors and their behavior on your site. Where are they clicking? If you have high bounce rates, this could indicate that your landing pages and your website pages might need a little bit of optimization. As for email performance, you can track how many recipients are opening your emails and engaging with the content on your emails. You can track where they're clicking on your emails, so what links they're clicking on, if they're clicking on an event link versus a donation link on your email. And to improve email performance, one thing that you can do, and one thing that we recommend a lot, is A/B testing. So testing two different versions of an email to that same list, seeing which one performs best, and then kind of going with the one that performs best more in the future. For donation conversion rates, one thing that you can track is the percentage of visitors or email recipients who are actually completing a donation. So going back to email performance, if you're sending emails and you often have a donation link on those emails, you can really track which visitors to those emails are actually going through and performing that donation to your nonprofit. For social media engagement, I'm sure we all have social media platforms personally, but also for our nonprofits. So things like likes, comments, shares, and then the reach across your social platforms are things that you can track. Now, ultimately, more engagement, this will typically lead to increased brand awareness and support. You really want to make sure that your posts and your content are curated for your target audience, that you're making posts not just to make posts, but you're making posts so that your target audience is really becoming more familiar with your nonprofit, with your mission, and ultimately your goal. And then for event attendance, this is another thing that you can track. So for both online and offline events, it's good to monitor and track the number of attendees. This data is important. You can use this to improve your event promotion and then ultimately increase participation for the future ones. Now, getting into some common challenges with data, we see quite a few common challenges here. First one that we like to speak on is just unconnected platforms. So we see this lots where nonprofits have a lot of their data kind of spread across multiple different tools and systems. So you have spreadsheets in one place, you'll have your CRM, you'll have your donation platform, but not everything is necessarily connected. So that'll typically make it difficult to get a unified view of your performance, right? So another thing would be disorganized data across spreadsheets. So this is another challenge that we see. Tracking information manually in spreadsheets, it can really lead to errors, redundancy, and inefficiency. And I think we've all gone through this in one way or another, having spreadsheets everywhere with one piece of data over here. Maybe you're tracking your events somewhere, your donations somewhere, but this can really cause data tracking issues and some things might not line up. Another thing is lack of automation. So manual processes like copying data between platforms, this can consume time and then ultimately increase the risk of errors. And then also limited expertise. So given the size of some smaller nonprofits, you may lack dedicated staff trained in analytics or marketing tools. So this can definitely make it hard to properly interpret your data and then ultimately make informed decisions.
Yeah, so let's get into how we can start putting this into practice. The first thing we're going to talk about is connecting and centralizing this data. So like Zach said, this is a big thing you want to do. When you're trying to figure something out, you don't want to say, hey, let's go to the page view tool, and now let's go to the click rate tool, and now let's go to the email tool and try and figure out what exactly is going on in all of those. There's easier ways to do it. And, oftentimes, the amount of time you spend setting something like this up, you are going to save, at least 10-fold, 100-fold in trying to do all this manually each time to compile everything. Say you're doing monthly reports or even your annual report. So centralization matters for a couple of reasons. one of the biggest ones is that it prevents duplicates both in data and work and error. So oftentimes when you're dealing with things where you're typing stuff in manually or doing napkin math, or we're just really relying on one tool maybe over others, so you're not taking all that data in consideration, a lot of things can go wrong in that. So centralizing, making sure everything's connected together really helps reduce that redundancy and error. It also gives you that quick view into how everything's doing. So if you want to check in on things, I know as we we're going through in the beginning, Aretha was asking what everybody was doing. A lot of people are wearing a lot of different hats. And so being able to just say, hey, I have 20 minutes today to check in on some things. Having one place where you can get a bird's eye view of everything is incredibly helpful. That leads to better decision making. With digital marketing especially, it's really easy to tread water. By that, I mean, you're spending a lot of time and effort, but you're really just staying in the exact same place. So by being able to have this data and make it useful, you can be able to make better decisions for how to use your time and your resources more effectively. Now, that all sounds great. How are we actually going to put that into practice? So one of the biggest things is using a connected CRM, some of these integration tools and dashboards. So yep, Zach, next slide will be great here. So here are some common ones that we see. At the very basic level, you should at least have Google Analytics set up. We just did a webinar a couple of weeks ago on that. But just know that this is a free tool, gives you lots of powerful information on stuff coming to your website. And there's lots of helpful things you can do. So if you don't do anything else, definitely get analytics installed, and that'll set you on the right path. Then also we have things like a CRM. So this can pull in Google Analytics data as well. You can do your donor communications through it. It has analytics, landing pages. So you can really centralize a lot of your data on a individual level. So you can go in and see, hey, Julian from Philadelphia did XYZ on this day, and we sent them this email, and organize all your lists. Lots of helpful things. Also a tool like DataBox. This helps you create dashboards. So that could be really helpful for like visual learners, or maybe you're in the weeds on the data, but you need to present that information to people who really just want the top level information. Having that sort of dashboard that you can sort of have update in real time, populate with all your different sources, can be very helpful. And then another tool that comes in handy quite often here at TAP is Zapier. And oftentimes, if you're trying to connect two pieces of software, there might not be a direct integration. And so think of Zapier as the piece of tape or the glue between those two things that they wouldn't otherwise have. So you can say, hey, when somebody fills out this form on my website, automatically update HubSpot. Or when we send this one email here, update discounts in this area on another CRM or somewhere on the website. So it really allows you to send data back and forth, reducing all the manual work you have to do. So we talk a lot about turning websites into tools here at TAP, but those tools don't just serve the users; they should serve you as well. And cutting down on the administrative work with things like Zapier and setting up some of these dashboards here, it's really important. And from personal experience, we can say it's quite helpful for a lot of folks. Now, when we get into the email marketing conversions, Zach alluded to some of this before, but there's some things that we got to think about each time. So when we're looking at the open rate, the main thing that open rate data point tells us is, hey, does this subject line really prompt somebody to open this email? Are they actually saying, hey, this does sound interesting, I do want to open this? Just think of your own email inboxes. I'm sure you're getting, at least 100 a day. And if you look at that little red dot on it, it probably has a lot of unread emails. So what is it that actually prompts somebody to open that email? That open rate, as you do some of that A and B testing, that's really going to tell you what's working and what's not for your specific audience. Now, there's a lot of rules of thumb or rule of thumbs. I'm not sure what the plural would be, but there's a lot of them out there for general advice. But really look into this for your own audience. Nonprofits especially have very niche groups, and making sure that you're catering to your specific audience is very important. Then when we're looking at the click-through rate, we're not just looking at, hey, does the subject line prompt somebody to open it, but we're saying, does the content prompt somebody to click through to the website? And a sidebar here, you really want to make sure that every time you're sending an email, you do have a reason to send it, and you're trying to drive people back to your website to accomplish a task. Sometimes it's notifications and things like that, and that's okay. But we're really saying, hey, this is a tool to drive more of the work that we do. That's why we're sending this email. We want your support, your engagement here. And so that click-through rate really tells you how well your emails are helping that. So once we look at that conversion rate, we're saying, hey, out of all the people who've opened it, how many have clicked through? Stuff like that. Those are all things that come together at the end of it, and that is like your main metric of success. So for every time we send an email, what actually is happening on the website end? How many people are actually converting and signing up for something? There's another tip here. We already talked about A and B testing quite a lot and calls to action, but make sure you add some visuals and some personalization. Especially if you're using an email marketing tool, it's very easy to set up on the most basic level. Hi, Julian. You can just put in that first name tag and you start to add that. You can go, quite a bit further down on that too. So you can start saying, hey, you can reference the last event somebody signed up for, or any other piece of data you have in your CRM and things like this. So there's lots of ways to sort of generate personalization in emails. And so by amping them up, by paying a little bit of attention to the layout, the visuals, and the design you're using, you can really help improve these things like the click-through rate. Open rate, you're not going to see the email until you open it. But that click-through rate, having a good designed email can really help on that conversion level. Now, after we've got somebody with an email and they've clicked through to something, they're going to land on your website. And so this is where something like Google Analytics can help quite a lot. So you'll be able to see the traffic source. So where somebody's actually coming from. It can be marked as email, or if you use things like UTM tags, I know we've talked about that quite a lot here. You can say, hey, somebody came from this specific button, or they came from this specific email. You can add a whole bunch of information to that. That's not just in emails. You can do that in your social posts and QR codes and stuff as well. Now, again, we have conversion rates. One thing to note is that in Google Analytics 4, they no longer call conversions. They call them key events, but everyone else in the world does call them conversions. So that's just saying, hey, here's the most important things that we want people to do. We want them to fill out this form. We want them to make a donation. Here, that's sort of the way that you track all that. Bounce rate, how many people are landing on your website, not doing anything and leaving. That can say, hey, maybe we need to take a look at the design, or maybe there's a tech issue. Or maybe there's just we're directing the wrong kinds of people to this specific page. You also have things like custom events. So this can say, hey, I really want to know when somebody clicks the bottom donate button versus the one at the top of the page. You can create a custom event just for that. And that helps you know, hey, these are the sort of designs that are working for our audience. You can make better decisions that way. And a big one is user flow analysis. So this is something where you can say, I want to start on the homepage. People are going to land there. Where do people actually go after the homepage? And you can see a branching tree and say, okay, well, some people go to the About page. Some people go to our programs page. Most people go to our events page, and then some people go to our donate page. That'll help you see how traffic is performing now. And then as you make changes to that, you can really understand what those changes are affecting. And you'll get a general sense of the levers you can pull that will make meaningful change moving forward. And here's just some tips to get started on this. Make sure that each page has a clear call to action. So again, we want these websites to function as tools. They're not just sort of like passive things where people, might be able to find a way to get in touch. You want to say, here's our donate page. We're going to have a little bit about who we are, the impact of an individual donation and what we can do with it, and a donation form. Donate right now. All, putting that in there, having it a clear focus page right around the core conversion for that section of the site. Making sure that if you're sending somebody to a specific page that, you're leveraging that traffic source so hey, we're going to be sending a lot of people from this email list to this page. Let's make sure that it's clear what they can do and it's geared towards their specific needs, whether it be language or a level of information, or if they're volunteers, making sure that it's geared appropriately there. Big thing here is using forms. So a lot of people will just end up having like the email, and it might even have like a form on there, but it'll be like, hey, give us your name, your email, a subject line, and a message. which is just another way to send an email, just a little more confusing. So take some time and really build out a form saying, this is the information that we need to know about somebody. You'll then be able to put that into your CRM, and then you'll be able to help them better, because your first touch will no longer be, hey, I need to email this person, ask them for the information that I need to be able to help them. You can get that right away in the form, have that populate in your CRM so you can start making smarter marketing decisions for them, and then move forward a lot more efficiently. And then again, you do have the ability to A and B test. So make sure that, if you're making an experiment, you make a change, wait a week or two, look at the data, consider if there's anything that might affect it. Giving Tuesday is a big one that's going to cause a lot of spikes for folks. The week between Christmas and New Year's is going to cause a huge dip. So make sure that, if you're making changes, you're taking stuff like that into consideration. But then, analyze a lot of the stuff that's going on your site after you make changes, and you'll be able to see what's working and what's not.
So now getting into a little bit of social media metrics that you want to monitor. One thing is engagement rate. So when you're making a post, whether it be on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you really want to take a look at how many likes are you getting, comments and shares, how many people are actually interacting with your content. If you're posting on a daily basis and you're not getting any interactions, you might want to focus a little bit more on the quality of those posts rather than the quantity, right? So higher engagement, when you get higher engagement, this means that your content is more relevant to your audience and you're really making that connection to your audience. So you really want to make sure that your posts are relevant to your not only to your mission, but to what your audience wants to see, right? Link clicks and traffic. So Julian touched a little bit on this as well. So you can measure how effectively these posts are driving traffic to your website or to your landing pages. It'll help you evaluate the success of your posts. Maybe somebody doesn't necessarily click like or comment, but they're actually clicking the link on their post. So this will help you evaluate the success of your posts and how they're performing. And then follower growth. So monitoring your follower count over time. This will help you gauge your audience growth. So how many people are coming across your posts, how many people are coming across your profile, because ultimately what you want to do is try to direct that traffic to your website, right? Steady growth signals effective brand messaging. So this means that when your audience is growing at a certain rate, it can tell you that you're doing a great job with your brand messaging and with your posts, and that your posts are reaching that right audience and reaching those right people to bring that traffic towards your nonprofit. So now I'm going to speak a little bit on reaching your data and analytics goals. So setting those goals and then how to reach them. So a couple strategies for reporting and sharing your data. One thing would be to create visual and actionable reports. So you want to create reports that use, whether it be charts, graphs, dashboards, places like DataBox, or in your specific CRM or other pieces of software. You want to be able to present your data in an easy to understand and easy to use format. So you want to highlight those key takeaways and those actionable insights rather than just overwhelming it with raw data and all these different data points. Another thing is to tailor reports for your audience. So who's going to be seeing these reports? Who's going to be seeing these dashboards? If it's for leadership and stakeholders, you really want to focus on those high-level metrics like the impact, the return on investment, your progress towards your goals. If the reports and dashboards are for teams, you might want to provide a little bit more detailed tactical data that they can use on a day-to-day basis to refine those strategies. Encouraging collaboration through data sharing. So you really want to use shared dashboards or cloud-based tools so you can provide real-time access to data across teams. If you were to create a dashboard or report in a spreadsheet, for example, and if you created this report 3-4 weeks ago, you would be missing that past 3 or 4 weeks of data. So you really want to use cloud-based tools so that data is constantly being updated automatically, and just so you make sure that all that data and information is accurate. Highlighting progress and celebrate wins. So share milestones and improvements with your team and supporters. This will help build morale both internally and externally, and it'll help maintain enthusiasm. So this is great for social media posts as well. For example, one thing that you could share internally would be, hey, our email click-through rate increased by 20% last week. We had some great emails that went out last week. People are clicking through them. This would be something great to share internally, both with like the people who are performing those tasks in the teams, but then also for like leadership and stakeholders.
So now we have all this data. How are we actually going to use it to make some of these decisions that we have to when you're creating digital marketing? So one of them is identifying trends over time. It's really seeing like, hey, after we send out this email, what happens on our donation page? If we're getting a lot more hits and a lot more donations, they can say, hey, email really works for our audience. Let's put more targeted email campaigns in there. This brings up a question that Matthew asks here. What is more important, A and B testing communications or segmenting audiences based on constituent descriptors? I wouldn't say either is more important. I think both are really good to use. And so if you have, your audience segmented in that, with those descriptors there, you can see what's going to work best for that specific audience. So, as you can get more specific, that's going to help you be even more effective. So A and B testing, I don't think is a either or thing. I think that's just a tool for whatever group you have, whether it's your whole audience, whether you have it for like your donors and your volunteers and your newsletter audience, or you're saying, hey, these are people that have identified in whatever descriptor you have. You can see what's the best way to communicate with them, and having that A and B testing, which is also sort of you're experimenting and adapting. You can say, hey, let's try something new. Let's put an A and B test on it. If it does better than the way that we normally do things, let's try it again. And if it doesn't, we can say, hey, maybe we'll do it one more time just to confirm, but maybe, we were off for something. And you can go back to the information and see, what exactly it was that changed. Were less people opening it? Were less people clicking through on something? Was the design of the page or the email too different? So long answer to basically say, you can do both. And I would encourage you to do both. Another way is to really use this data to understand what's working best for you. So, say you're on 13 different social media platforms, and then you look at your website analytics and see that, 10 of them, nobody has ever came to your website from them. Is that actually helping you? Maybe you're getting some engagement on that platform, or maybe not at all. But for the things that are important to you, that website being the home of all of your digital marketing efforts and all your conversion points, nobody's getting there. It's not really going to be serving you. And there's a case to be made for things like awareness and stuff like that. But just think of it generally as looking at the data to see, is this actually doing something for us, or are we spending time that we could be spending somewhere else on this? And also make sure that when you're looking at this analytics, especially sometimes the first time you log in, it might be interesting to look through all the different things you have. But make sure that you're spending your time on things that align with those objectives that you have for your specific organization. So maybe you don't need to start creating dashboards and reports for all the different screen resolutions that people view your website on. But if you're looking at a website redesign and you're trying to figure out, the most common ways that your users go on the site, is it mostly on their phone? Is it on the desktop? Are they all, for some reason, using Microsoft Internet Explorer? Those are all things that you want to know. But for the most part, if you're saying, hey, we really want to look at things like form completions and when people watch our videos or download some of our resources, make sure that you're tracking those things. Whatever it is your goals are, data can help you with it, and just make sure you stay focused on that as well. Oh, Zach, you're muted.
So now we'll get into kind of wrap it up here with an action plan, or sort of some steps that you can take to optimize that usage of the data and analytics. We figured out kind of what data and analytics are important to look at, where we can source all this data, but really like, how are you going to use this plan? How are you going to set up a plan for the future to actually start using this? So number one, we would say to audit your current tools and data sources. So where are you currently getting your data from? What tools are you using? Do you have a donation platform in one place, a couple spreadsheets or organized, tracking all your constituents? Do you have another spreadsheet over here. So you really want to identify those gaps in your data collection and the connectivity of your platforms. So you really want to determine if you need to consolidate or if you need to upgrade your tools that that are currently existing. Number two would be to set SMART goals. So a SMART goal is a goal that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So you want to set some goals for your analytics. So for example, we want to increase our email open rates by 20% in 6 months. So that's a specific goal that you'll want to work to achieve in the future. Number three would be to invest in training and resources. So you really want to equip your team with the skills and tools, with the skills and the tools to analyze and act on the data. So there's lots of free training resources out there, like Google Analytics courses, HubSpot Academy courses, webinars like this one. These are great for really investing in your team and making sure that the people on your team have the right skills and right tools to work with the data that's coming in. Number four would be to start small and scale. So begin with 1 or 2 high priority campaigns to focus your efforts, and then expand your data-driven approach as it goes, right? So as you start to see results come in, just focus on a couple things to start off, and then as you start to see results come in, kind of expand on that as you go. Commit to consistent reporting. So schedule regular reviews of your analytics. Maybe you have a Monday morning meeting with the team. Maybe it's just something on a Monday morning that you do as you look at your dashboards. How did our emails perform last week? How was our website performance? How many people visited our site? How many people made a donation? So just having this on your schedule and making sure to constantly review your data, how your nonprofit is performing digitally. This will help you keep your strategies on path. It'll make sure that everything is being effective and then kind of on track as you go. And number 6 is seek help if you need it. So if you're having any issues with any of these, any of the pieces or any of the parts on your action plan, there's additional resources out there, right? So using an agency like Tap Network in partnership with TechSoup, we offer so many different services and ways to help nonprofits, like whether you're a small nonprofit just starting out or larger, getting into global reach, right? So kind of seek that help if you need it. There's always going to be people out there or companies out there that are willing to help.
So now I'm going to go over a couple of specials that we have just for TechSoup members. And while I'm doing that, we already have a couple questions in the Q&A. Make sure to fill them out. One of the biggest benefits, I think, of these is being able to ask these specific questions. And so let them come and we'll get to everything here. So the first thing that we have is, like I mentioned, if you don't do anything else to set up, analytics and data stuff, get Google Analytics set up. We do offer this. If you need some help doing that, we can help you set it up, connect it to your site, and then give you some training for everything. And another big one that we have is, we're a HubSpot partner. And so they have a great CRM nonprofit deal that can help you start collecting all the information around, the people that are using your site or making the donations, who are volunteering with you, whatever it is. They're going to be able to take that into account and track that for you. Say you're on the fence a little bit, we do have this ebook right here for how to choose a nonprofit CRM. A lot of great options in that. And then after you get through that book, if you need help setting that CRM up, we can definitely help you do that. We have a small package here just for TechSoup members that you can take advantage of. And then, finally, if you do choose HubSpot, like I said before, we do have this special offer. We'll give you 10% off and waive your onboarding fee. So definitely, if that interests you, HubSpot can do a lot of things. We start with the CRM and move into other things like landing pages and specialty forms, email marketing, a lot of stuff like that. Definitely reach out today. And then finally, if you're like, hey, that sounds great, but we also have other things we need to take care of, we do have some retainer packages. So these are just great blocks of time. So if you're saying, hey, we need help on social and on our website and getting analytics set up and figuring out how to do XYZ, this is basically where you can get the full benefit of working with an agency, get the whole team here able to help you out. So if you're interested in any of those, please reach out. Another way you can find us is on the TechSoup website under services and the website services and digital marketing services. So find us there or click on any of the links in this presentation. It will be emailed to you afterwards, so don't worry. But yeah, we hope to see a lot of you soon. Here's just the form you can fill out. Finally, we're going to get to some questions here. So Paige asks a couple here. First, she says, I've seen a lot of articles out there about open rates being affected by different email clients and erroneously showing as opened to mass mail tools. How accurate are they? What percent is typically questionable? Now, I would say more often than seeing a lot of things being automatically opened is I would say a lot of things, you might not get that data at all. So especially if you're dealing with people using things like work emails or they have some sort of like enterprise email, a lot of the things that are being used to track that email data are stripped out automatically. And so you may see that on a personal level where you see like, hey, this image has been removed, click here to load it in your email. That's basically saying, a lot of the ways that people will track emails are adding like a small little 1 pixel, photo somewhere. That's say, hey, when this photo is loaded, count that as an open, track all the data from there. There's other ways to do it. But I would say when you're dealing with data like this, I wouldn't assign a specific percentage to say, hey, we have a 63% open rate on this, and we're going to automatically say 6 of them are gone. I would say this is the most accurate information that is available to you, and move forward with the knowledge that it's not entirely accurate. You're not ever going to be able to account for all the different variables that are going to prevent, some of those metrics from being updated. Apple releases, new privacy features, seems like every update. So that's going to reduce the ability for some of this information to make its way back to you. So a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with here is saying, out of all the data that is available to us that's coming here, we're going to work with that versus trying to account for those external factors. With the mail clients, it's sort of bumping everything up automatically. It's something that you can't control. It is something to sort of keep an eye on, especially if this is the thing that you do day to day. But I wouldn't assign a percentage to that. Zach, do you have any other thoughts on that one?
Just went away here. Yeah, I think a lot of what you said was pretty good, Julian. I think that, yeah, using the data as sort of this is the best data that is possible for emails, just because there is a lot of restrictions, whether it be with Apple or any other platforms, restricting a little bit of that open rate data. But one thing to really focus on, I think, is the click-through rate of those emails. So are the emails not even are they just being opened, but are they being clicked on? Are they being interacted with? Are they clicking the donation button? Are they clicking the link to the blog that you posted, right? So really the interaction with that email, I think, is the most important part.
Great. So then we have another question here. On social media posts, what goal should you have? Well, what percentage goal should you have for your engagement rate? And again, this is something where I'm going to slightly alter the question to give I think a little bit better of an answer. So a lot of times, social media platforms are going to give you analytics for that platform. But remember that your goal isn't to do well, for Facebook or something like that. You want to do well on your website. You want to drive people from this platform that you don't own, you don't have control over, you don't have a lot of insights into how things are built, onto a platform that's geared as a tool to get people to engage with you, volunteer, donate, sign up for a program, sign up for an event. So I would say the main metric you should look when it comes to engagement rate is, maybe add a UTM tag and then look in your analytics and see how many people for each social post are actually making their way onto our website. I think that's going to be a far more useful metric for you. That's going to cover sort of, hey, how effective is this text? And how well does it push people from this platform onto our website versus, hey, when somebody sees this post, how likely are they, or what percentage of people click like or comment or do something like that? You really want to be viewing it from the point of view of your website as that hub of all of your digital marketing, efforts. Say, hey, this is the main face of the digital marketing stuff. How many people are getting here from the specific social media post? UTM tags are a great way to track that. That'll allow you to have, a unique tag for each link in your social media posts. And then from there, you can get those insights and figure out what's working and what's not.
And for automated tools for kind of tracking all that social media data in one place, definitely recommend using a like a social media management platform. So there's quite a few out there. A couple that I know just off the top of my head. Hootsuite is one. Agora Pulse. We see lots of nonprofits, especially if they're using HubSpot as their CRM. HubSpot has a built-in social media management tool. So there's quite a few different social media management tools out there that will then bring all that data in from those platforms. So you'll be able to see all your follower count, your likes, your interactions with your posts, kind of all in one place. Whether those interactions be from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that can be connected. And then the great thing with those social media management platforms as well is you can do all your posting from there. So if you're posting the same thing on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, you can make that one post. You can make that post just once in the social media management platform. Then that will post automatically on across your different platforms, right? So there's a lot of great tools out there for managing your social media, kind of all in one place.
Victoria asks, in WordPress for stats, is it better to install a plugin or a Google tag? And I will say there's a lot of analytics tools out there for WordPress. You're probably dealing with hundreds and hundreds. I would say Google Sitekit is the best way to do it. And what it does is basically like placing the Google tag in your header, but it gives you a little bit of a dashboard right in WordPress as well. So not only does it make setting everything up a lot easier and making sure that you're not going to have any errors or issues with that, but also if you want like a really miniature dashboard for like analytics and Search Console, which are two great tools that we just did some webinars earlier, maybe a couple weeks ago. It gives you little dashboards for that and connects everything together. So it's a great way to get everything pulled in accurately. But if you're saying, hey, I don't need any of that, I'm already using DataBox for these dashboards, I want something clean, you can just put in the Google tag. There are other plugins out there that are like, Monster Insights is one, and I don't mean to speak ill of any of them, but I just don't find them as useful as just saying, hey, we're going to have Google's first-party plugin installed, and then create our own specialized dashboards that aren't going to be behind, paywalls or things like that. So there may be folks who have specific use cases for them, and they love it. But I think, just with some of the other tools we mentioned today, you're going to get more bang for your buck when it comes to data. Doing it Sitekit, and then external visualization, putting stuff in your CRM using that.
Just another question from Alan on social media management platforms, cost, more information here. Again, I don't know the specifics of costs for any of these social media platforms, but just a few that we've used in the past or we've seen used in the past would be Hootsuite, Agora Pulse. I know Social Pilot is one that I've seen a couple nonprofits using. So there's quite a few out there. Definitely do your research on which one you want to pick, because again, like some will have more features than others. Those with the most features may have a little bit more of a higher price point. There's got to be a few free ones out there as well. So there's a lot of different options there.
Great. So does anybody have any other questions? We have some time left, and so we want to make sure that we're able to help you out. It can be, a challenge that you're trying to get through, like, hey, how will we be able to get this information? Maybe a question about platforms. Let us know. So we'll give just a couple seconds for any other questions to come through. Oh, here, Catherine puts one in. For A and B testing, how large of an audience do you need to test effectively? My understanding is that if the pool of visitors or subscribers is too small, validity is hard to achieve. Now, that is correct. And a lot of platforms are going to actually limit it. I think, Zach, HubSpot is like you need a minimum of 2,000. Is that the number?
No, I think it's quite a bit smaller than that. I think it's around 100.
100.
But
okay, so a lot of it comes down to, if you have a small audience, I wouldn't say that, hey, this is a scientific report you're going to publish about the effectiveness of this specific email subject line, but it can be helpful for you. So I would say you can start with this, and especially, I was very incorrect with my assumption. HubSpot allows you to go down to 100. I would try it out. If you're not really seeing any differences and you're saying, hey, it's the same across both, you can then say, hey, I'm now going to spend more time growing this list so that I can come back to this A and B testing on emails later on. And then you might want to use A and B testing on things like your website and stuff instead. All right, well, I think that's it. Just if anything comes in, at the last second here. And there we go. One more here. If anybody else has things, definitely put them in there, but we'll be wrapping up soon. Can using Meta Business Suite be effective enough for stats? Or is it better to get social media management system like Hootsuite? So that really depends on the sort of social media platforms you're on. And like I said before, making sure that you're using this analytics to determine where it's best to spend your time. You might say, hey, I want every social media platform ever, and I spend 50 hours a week posting and checking all of them. If that works for you, great. And then something like Hootsuite is going to be really helpful and important for you. It's going to help save you a lot of time. Maybe you get that down to like 30 hours a week for all 100 platforms you're on. But if you're doing things like, hey, we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram, the Meta Business Suite can be great. And those are going to give those internal stats. I would say make sure that you're using your UTM tags or anything else to make sure that you're getting all that information on the website end as well. And then that way you can say, hey, this post came in, here's how many donations this specific post generated. People who came from this post, went to our website, filled out the donation form, and hit submit. You'll be able to get that. You won't be able to get that information just internally in the Meta Business Suite, but it will give you lots of other information to say, hey, this is how many people were shown your post. This is how many people will engage with it in some way. So it really depends on the sort of social media platforms you're on. If you're working on one or two, it might not be as effective for you. But if you're dealing with a good amount of them, or you're trying to get stuff set up ahead of time, that's one of the biggest reasons why I see people use tools like Hootsuite or Agorapulse is be able to say, I'm going to set the week up right now and then have it auto publish at noon each day or something like that. And actually, Alan asks here, what are the best ways to follow up? How quickly? Follow some of the links inside of the presentation that's going to be emailed out. Fill out those forms. And just as you can sort of see some of the things we mentioned, when you fill out that form, it's not going to be like, hey, what's your name and what's your email? We're going to ask you questions to figure out, hey, what exactly are you reaching out about? How can we help you? Then we use that data to make sure that the information is getting to the right people. And then we can sort of track that to see, hey, what's going to be the most helpful information to include in presentations like this. So that's just some of the ways that we're putting the things that we mention into practice ourselves. So fill out some of those forms, get in touch that way, or on the TechSoup website. And I hope to see some of you folks soon.